It is September 26th, 2021, the last day of summer. For many people and cultures, summer has already passed. It has already passed seasonally, culturally. For me, how I have always defined summer is the period between when school lets out and school comes back in session. Now this year, I had an abnormally long summer. My summer started on May 29th during my transfer ceremony, transferring from College of Marin to where I go to school now. It was a nice ceremony. And then my summer kind of meandered at a very odd pace. I went to my brother's surprise birthday party, where I think I fell in love. Took walks, so many walks in June. There was the backyard concert, that one walk up towards the hill where I looked like a Danish clothing model. My cousin visited, and we went on still more walks. Myself, being a liberal tree hugger. Still more walks, this time with more people. Then there was Juneteenth, the first time I intentionally noted the day and attended a gathering in Marin City. There was that party in Oakland where I smoked a joint in the front yard of my father's former boss's house with his children. And then we went and talked and ate a lot of food. Then I got this camera and have been having so much fun with it. Then, on July 5th, I went somewhere that changed the course of my entire summer and perhaps my entire life. I went to the most beautiful place on earth. Shout out to this bench, by the way. I took yet more walks with more people. And in this view, spending time with this people, I realized I couldn't leave. I couldn't go away. So I decided to become a camp counselor. I filled out my first incident report on the first full day there. I hung out with John Robinson. This is now a John Robinson appreciation video. We took selfies together. We were called cringe together. We rode golf carts together. We had Polaroids taken of us together. We took more selfies together. We were John together. We rode more golf carts wearing makeup together. John was the single greatest superior and boss I've ever had. I also went star tripping with the boys. Visited downtown. I did my makeup. Well, I had my makeup done for me for the dance. And then infamous July 16th and July 17th, where I realized who I was, what matters to me, and I felt love and belonging. Then, the morning after, still feeling stuff from the night before, we thrifted, we breakfast, and then I took a solo drive to Cloverdale. Was so tired from the day, I fell asleep in the middle of talking to a friend of mine. I drank soda on hay. Then the next week, the absolute dream week. I took a beautiful walk to the river with two very good friends. Got my picture taken next to some grapes. Walked with friends. Had to walk back, semi-barefoot and bleeding because I wore the wrong footwear and had to be picked up by the wonderful Big John in the driveway in a golf cart. I took selfies with cows. I took a portrait mode of Bessie. I hid from my enemies. After getting to know the local bioecology, hanging out with cows is fun. Then in this brief interlude, I went home. Well, what I thought was my home. I obtained clothes which I treasure to this day because they remind me of you. I ate whatever this abomination is and sent pictures to a very special person who promptly responded, "That looks delicious." We hung out with this guy. We ended up not buying it. I told people I was a volunteer firefighter for the San Jose Fire Department. We took more selfies, John and I. We convinced the group chat that we went to the Coast Guard station, to which they replied, "Break in." and we drove to another fence and promptly looked like we were breaking in. We ate the most wonderful dinner. Twinning, number 1. Twinning, number 2. I became more in touch with my spiritual side, only later to be framed for the brutal murder of a lifeguard in the Mary Swing Pavilion with an underground rat love candle. As that night progressed and turned into morning, I found myself in an all too familiar state. I cried. I cried so much that day, eating leftover Chick-fil-A. I cried on the drive. I cried home. I cried when I was home. I cried going to sleep. And yet I resolved myself, hung out with young Babka Fresh in the flesh in a wonderful place, talked about his travels, about my experience crying, and we hung out with some sheep. There was the rooftop concert farm area. Such an incredibly wonderful night. Thank you. There's this picture of Mondo Duplantis, which I have to include because it's Mondo Duplantis. There was that wonderful party in Oakland where I felt like an adult and able to converse with people as my own person. I got mistaken for a graduate student, something which I loved. I made playlists for people who I very much care for. I began to move myself into the Enchanted Forest. I took more walks with more people on more beaches, went to a crayfish boil, learned to live with 4-legged living art pieces, otherwise known as dogs. This is Milton Johnson Monkey Milo. I took walks by myself. I took photographs of my new house. I made shirts, well, one shirt in particular, with the help of a wonderfully patient, constructive guide. I made art. I cried while making art to hang in the bathroom of where I reside. We hung out with moths, giant moths in our backyard. I opened this piece that my grandma gave me. Thank you, Grandma. And on the first day of classes for many, but not myself, I met His Holiness Pope Francis, hanging out. That was my summer, a very brief, very emotional survey. This list is incomplete. This list varied from those who experienced it. This represents only my list, only the time that I had. 4 months of summer. A weird, meandering, emotional, beautiful summer. From May 29th, 2021 to September 26th. For those of you that were a part of my summer, I love you. I really, truly love you. You have made this meandering summer an experience like absolutely no other. A summer that I couldn't write or create or come up with if I tried. A summer which brought so much confusion, so much love, so much loneliness, so much beauty. All in 4 crazy, meandering months. I love you. O Nkosi Yesu. Here, as I sit, during the last day of summer, I reflect on all that's transpired, and I say, I love you. Thank you.